second call for public comment. Third and final call for public comment. Jesse, is there anybody on Zoom?
No, there's nobody.
Okay, then I will close public comment and we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there any item that a committee member wishes to have removed from consent?
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
So the motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Second? All those in favor? Aye. And opposed? Okay, consent is approved. We have two items on our agenda tonight, and we're gonna take the closed session first, because that's, should be brief. So I'll read us into closed. Notice is hereby given that the above governmental body may adjourn into a closed session during this meeting, which as authorized by section 19.851F of Wisconsin statute, which authorizes the governmental body to convene in a closed session for the purpose of considering financial, medical, social or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where Part B applies, which, if discussed in public, would likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigations. Specific subject matter may be considered in closed session is 25-0909, residency exception request for police department. The motion to convene into closed session was made by Alderperson
So moved.
Norrell.
Second.
And second by Alder Cummings. All right, Sickles says aye. Norrell?
Aye.
Beeman?
Aye.
Cummings?
Aye.
All right, we are in closed session.
Are we not using that room for closed session anymore?
Oh, hang on a minute. Jesse? I just left the I just left it, so. I just left it. I'll wait till she comes back out. I couldn't figure out how to get. Thanks. Mayor, maybe you should still tell her, because if somebody else signs in, right? I don't know, just to be safe. Thank you. She's not on. Mayor, you brought your copies with you, or did I need to bring these? That only made enough for me.
Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Test, test.
That's fine.
We got this. We're back on track. Back on track. We'll see.
All right, we are,
Voting in progress.
okay, we are back from closed session. And our one agenda item that we'll take up is 25-0909, residency exception request for police department. Is there any action from the committee?
Make the motion to approve the request.
Second.
There's a motion to approve the request and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. And opposed? All right, that will be placed on consent if there's no objection.
No
So
objection.
that'll get forwarded to council for the final approval on the consent agenda coming up at the next council meeting. So, thank you. Oh, 26 on the first one. All right.
Wow.
All right, our next agenda item is 25-0908, is discussion on Department of Public Infrastructure, DPI restructure. So, Mayor, I know you had sent out a memo to the committee, kind of laying out the rationale, kind of structure what we're looking at, and a couple asks in there, so I don't know exactly how you want to proceed if you're kind of just running through that, but the floor is yours.
Thank you, appreciate it. So yeah, from the budget discussions from last year, I mentioned that I would like to pursue the idea of creating a separate park and recreation department. And so today, I'm not asking for any official approvals. We don't have any org chart that we're asking you to approve today. What I am gonna be asking at the end of this is to allow staff the opportunity to move forward with the official creation of that, with job descriptions, pricing, all that fun stuff. That would have some costs to it, associated with it, but not anything drastic. But really to get the committee and council, I did send it to the entire council as well, just, feel for whether or not we should continue to, or should pursue this. We've done some internal work already as to what it could potentially look like. We've looked at positions and their responsibilities versus the current Department of Public Infrastructure and what a park and recreation separate department would look like, just to make sure that it was feasible in the first place before we even came with an ask. So we have done work behind the scenes. What I am gonna ask is just that we have formal action to allow staff to present a full organizational structure and how a split would be. That's with input from staff yourselves. That's really what I want today as a conversation as to whether you agree with this and and what your priorities are as the council for Parks and Recreation. Made it clear that they're very important to me. I was very distressed back in 2011 when we had to eliminate the department due to budget cost constraints, but that was something that during those discussions, we negotiated as being best to put it under this new Department of Public Infrastructure back in that day, to truly, the only rationale was to save costs, to save money, which at that time we had to do. We kind of threw that department together at that time. We've tweaked it and made it much more efficient and better over the years. But I think we're in a position now where we can have the conversation about bringing that Park and Recreation Department back out of Department of Public Infrastructure to truly prioritize Parks and Rec, give it its identity that it deserves, I believe, in our community, with the quality of life, the economic development that really comes with Parks and Rec. And looking at what other communities have done, a lot of communities throughout the state have their own Park and Recreation Department. Just north of us, they have their own, right, Park and Recreation Department. It's not really trying to reinvent everything that the department, that Parks and Rec under Department of Public Infrastructure does now, but it really is giving that identity and structure that could support its own department. Customer service also is a big thing in this. I think we can have a lot of efficiencies by bringing Park and Rec all under one house. I'm recommending at the senior center right now for all the citizens' needs for Park and Rec would be under one house and one identity. So as I mentioned, we have looked at current responsibilities for the alignment if it even possible. We've outlined potential options for an organizational chart, but nothing is finalized at all. And truly, I believe that a dedicated department could improve the focus on Park and Recreation, customer service, and just other opportunities that, you know, the Department of Public Infrastructure is a very large department. It has a breadth of different responsibilities, from buildings and grounds to engineering to transit and Park and Recreation. No fault of anybody's, and I don't think anybody's doing a bad job, but when you have such a large department, everything just kind of gets, you know, compartmentalized into what it is, and there's not a true 100% focus in certain areas. Again, Park and Rec's priority to me, I hope it is to you as well, and I think by separating it out, you can truly give it the priority, and I think it's justified that we put a lot of money into Parks and Rec over the last few years. This last budget, $500,000 more for Red Arrow Park, for example. You as the council have prioritized parks throughout the years, so I don't see that separating it out would be anything less than what you've already committed to for parks. I think also reverting the Department of Public Infrastructure back to Department of Public Works, that's just a name that is common. DPI, Dan can tell you, gets asked probably every other day what that is, what that means. Citizens don't necessarily get it. They understand DPW is the trucks that go and plow snow and fix potholes and do all that stuff, right? So I think reverting back to Department of Public Works the way it was, they also can prioritize where their strengths are. And that's, I think, the engineering and everything I laid out and what would be under the Department of Public Works. I think that would also be beneficial to that department as well for its own identity and for where they truly are experts in their field and the rest of that side of things. Really, I want to have a conversation today. That's the crux of this, to see where your heads are at, what you would like to see. If this is the craziest idea in the world, tell us now and we can stop and move on with something else. I think it warrants a good discussion. I think there's a lot of good rationale behind splitting off Parks and Recreation from Department of Public Works. My ask you today is to have that conversation. If it's a go-ahead, that yes, you think this is a good idea, get you the information you need on job descriptions, pricing, org charts, all that. I would envision us working on that throughout the month of January. I did mention February meeting in the letter. Doesn't have to be that, January, February, maybe, so we can make sure that staff has opportunity to share their thoughts as well. But my goal would be then to hopefully have something in place by the new council, which is the end of April. And I also, as you can see, it's not necessarily personnel related, but I would ask for a Park and Recreation dedicated standing committee as well. Again, I think having those conversations directly on Parks and Recreation and not in a large committee can have a lot of benefits as well for the electeds and for the citizens. So that is another ask that I would have as well. We would create that separate committee, oversight committee of the Park and Recreation Department and all related. So that's where I'm at. Dan and Jesse really have been the ones that have been working with me closely on this. Dan is, of course, the department head over DPI currently and over Park and Recreation. So if you have any questions about logistics, how things work, Dan would be here to answer any of your questions for that. But appreciate your consideration and conversation. And as you can tell, there's a lot of Park and Rec staff here as well.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, and just kind of get the committee up to speed. I did sit down with Dan and the mayor in December to kind of get an indication of what they were looking for to bring and kind of set a timeline out for the discussion starting tonight and then kind of moving forward so that we had kind of set progress to be able to not just have a kind of a free-for-all conversation, but that there was set, set of guidelines here, and the ask kind of is what we were looking for tonight. So I can kind of start. I think it's important, when you laid out here, some of the building on successes, and when, I remember when we did have that standalone Parks and Rec, and it really did give some focus, to the Parks and Rec area. And I think we can learn from what was done well during that time, and maybe even more so what wasn't done well at that time. And I think we did that when we incorporated it in. We kind of washed away some of the stuff that wasn't done well. But some of the good stuff kind of got lost as well when we incorporated everything under the one umbrella. It just doesn't that size of things. So I think pulling some of that out is good. I do like the idea of that second or the additional standing committee for that. If you take a look at some of the duties that the standing committees have, even finance as an example, the list of duties that fall under finance is tremendously long. When we went to 4 standing committees from 6. Sometimes the details get lost because of the amount of stuff that goes to the committees. So I think it's good if we're really wanting that focus and detail. I think creating that additional standing committee is good. I think bluntly, either we're gonna do this now or we're gonna do this down the road, is we've created a structure that's almost impossible to fill any succession plans going forward. I mean, there isn't another department in the state, municipalities that have the structure like we have. So when you're looking to look at succession planning and bringing people in or moving people up, we don't have the ability to go and grab people from anywhere to put them into our structure because there's no other structure like it. So when we're, either we're gonna do this now or we're gonna have to do it when there's retirements or open positions, because what are you gonna do? We don't have that ability. So I'm fine moving forward. I think that's the next logical step. It doesn't mean that it's gonna necessarily cement it that it's happening in one direction, but it's at least gonna give us the knowledge base to figure out how to move forward if that's the direction that we're ultimately gonna go. So I guess I'd open up to the committee. So Alder Cummings?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I don't really have too many questions. I just, first off, thank you for the memo ahead of time with everything, and obviously we've talked in person as well with it, and I appreciate those conversations for that. Obviously, since I've been on the city council here, I've been a huge proponent, advocate for the Parks and Recreation piece of our Department of Public Infrastructure. And I appreciate the focus that we've had the last few years to go and improve, our public spaces and everything that we've been doing. And I think fundamentally, just with that piece, the Parks and Recreation piece, like that's what gives the city character. It allows people to enjoy the city more than just, no offense to, salt trucks and roads and everything else, but every city in Wisconsin has road problems. Every city in Wisconsin has, snow removal issues and all of that we deal with, right? But realistically, for the citizens to enjoy the city, this is where it's at. And I think giving it the proper focus is the right thing to do, especially when we're talking about, other aspects of, you know, we've been at 34,000, you know, give or take 500 people for the last, 20, 30 years. And, you know, if we really want to grow, like, that's a part of what we can do is make beautiful spaces, you know, for people to want to come here. And I think when you, just like everything as a, you know, now I'm speaking as a business owner, but like everything, if you lump too much into one thing, something doesn't always get the focus because we only have so much time. And so I think having a separate department makes sense, including the oversight with, you know, the standing committee. Makes sense, because then we can, you know, focus on the fine details and give it the attention that it's due. So I fully support it. I think just it'll make everything more efficient. The only question I guess I have, and that's just looking from a pure efficiency standpoint, and tell me if I'm crazy, but like right now we have the Parks and Recreation Department at the senior center for the offices, and we have everything else at City Hall, you know, for like, you know, the oversight piece. I know we live in a day and age of Zoom and Google Meets and everything else, but would that be the most efficient spot for the offices, or would we relocate them like in a centralized area with everybody else? So that way, at least, you know, if somebody needs something from somewhere, you can just go down the hall and talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, good question. I mean, right now, senior center has, the park and rec staff, there. Not the laborers. They're out of, Fleetwood Drive shop, you know, that's where they go. But, kind of the day-to-day park and rec is already currently at, the senior center. There's some, when I say efficiencies, there's some administrative tasks that come to City Hall. So for example, if you rent a cabin in summer, you gotta come to City Hall to get the key, you know, and that's, you know, one area of park and rec where you gotta come to City Hall here, where I would recommend everything would just be at the senior center for that, so people don't have to come to City Hall for those types of things, the keys and everything, because all that administrative staff would also be at the senior center. It possibly could help with, making sure the senior center stays open as well. We've had issues, not necessarily major issues in the past, just, logistics of making sure someone's at the front desk at the senior center all times, because people are shifting around, you know, and the park and rec employees aren't necessarily there all the time. So that could help that as well, making sure that the hours are covered at the senior center. But yeah, basically most everything would be taken out of City Hall for park and rec related items and put at the senior center. So
Yeah,
it would
and
be
that-
one central location.
That was kind of where I was going part of with it too, like, and there again, not saying that, you know, I'm saying like, I wouldn't support it if you didn't do it, but relocating the City Hall, like, obviously you always have somebody here during the open hours, like, you know, renting out a cabin, I'm sure, you know, you could still have somebody here, and if somebody's on vacation or whatnot, you could, you know, train somebody, you know, that's already here to go and do that same process.
Yep.
You know, and I'm just, like I said, there again, just thinking from pure efficiency standpoint, you know, and maximizing what you have.
Yep.
So,
We can discuss this again, like Kurt, Brock, and Michelle are at the senior center full-time. That's where their offices are, right? So they would be better to answer that logistical question for you, but we can talk about that internally and
Yeah.
come back and report if it is the best location or whatnot. Yeah.
Yep. And there again, I don't know the other factors in play, like obviously, you know, keeping the senior center open probably is important. I mean,
Yes.
so like, obviously that all is going to consideration, but like I said, just, that was just my main question, but otherwise I have, you know, I have nothing but good things to say for the current staff that's already there, and to be able to focus more on doing amazing work and being efficient is, I think, just only a good thing. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Alder Cummings. Alder Norrell?
Thank you. So I know this was part of the budget we as the council approved, so I think my questions would really come out in your assessment that you're asking for tonight, right? You're just saying, can we take this back to the staff, come up with the plan, bring it forward? Because any question I ask, I'm sure is going to be covered there, because I would ask about structure, I would ask about costs of the senior center, I would ask about how it's going to, leadership-wise, all that's going to lay out. And so I'm all for exploring this as a department, because one, you've asked for it, we've given you that approval already, and I would say, you know, again, my questions are just gonna probably be answered in your proposal anyways, so, thank you, I'd support it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I might as well.
Okay.
I never really understood why they were all lumped together anyway, so yeah, I'd be willing to look at it too. I think it's a good idea. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Alder Beeman. Well, I think you have the committees behind you to say, let's explore it and come back with a plan. And obviously, we budgeted some of the pricing aspects of it that are gonna come out of, there's a line item for that, so.
Yeah, I mean, really the costs will be when we talk about positions that are possibly new, you know, like a director or anything, we would obviously cost it out to Carlson Detman, that'll cost $500, $450, whatever, I mean, that's normal, like
Yep.
you always went through, so there's those new costs. But other than that, there's really not much. Now, I will say, you know, when we talk about the best way to do this, we obviously wanna do it the best way, or if we're creating something new. You know, if I did mention during the budget, we're looking at budget neutral, obviously, because there's nothing budgeted more. And if there's some discrepancies there, it may be, if you say, yes, we do want to create the department, but yet there might be some extra costs here or there, it might be a phased approach as well, you know, where we have to talk about it in next year's budget. So I'm not saying, you know, because we haven't run the numbers yet, that it's gonna be zero sum. But what we want to present to you is really truly the best department and the structure, and we'll cost it out. And if it needs to be phased, or if it works out perfectly, we'll obviously bring that to you for final approval. My recommendation next would be potentially to have a committee of the whole with the findings. I think this is a very large subject, so we can bring it back to personnel if you'd like, but I also think the full council should have a say on this before it gets to full council, because it is a pretty big ask to create a new department. So, but that's up to you if you.
Yeah, I think once you have the form or the structure kind of set, let's bring it back to personnel, see if there's any tweakings that need to be made. And then I think a recommendation to the committee of the whole out of personnel would carry a little weight. Just so that there's some progression.
I'd agree with that.
Okay. So, if there's really nothing
I don't know
further,
if Dan, if you had anything you wanted to add, or Jesse, if I missed anything, we've had these conversations quite a bit in December, so.
okay. All right, well then we'll, look forward to an update when it's ready and just, we'll put it on the agenda whenever you're ready to proceed, so.
Sounds good. Did you want a separate, for the ordinance change for, the standing committee? Was that something you'd want with this or separate from this to create the park and recreation?
I think if we're gonna do it, we'll do it all in
Just all in one.
one broad stroke of the brush.
Can do,
Makes sense, yeah.
Yep.
can do.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, if there's nothing further, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
You said that my first year here. Well, yeah, and then you look at how many parks we get.
Did, yeah, I got it. I don't know what that was, and I got scared, and then I thought, just because I hung up doesn't mean the other world is.
Yeah.
So thank you for going in there. I don't know what that was called, but yeah, when are they starting that? When are they starting this?
Yeah. And you know,
Fingers crossed.
you know Dan and Greg are always freaking fresh.
Shares all right for you boys?
Yeah, the chairs
We
are very
got
nice.
them at a huge discount. They're they're not making them anymore or whatever, so like, it's the end of season or whatever.
Got a good discount?
Yeah.
You know, when you said chairs, I was expecting like lazy boys.
Yeah.
You know, with,
Drink holders?
with massagers and
Right.
like, you know, heat or,
Yeah, right.
especially in summer when you got the AC cranked to -10.
Think I'm gonna have a beer.
Boy.
You coming? Check the marriage calendar.
Scoot, he likes the buses.
Yeah, we all switched to
He's a harmless.
When's, your system going in?
Goes up for bid on Wednesday
Yeah.
for Public Works.
Yeah, he's the sports guy.
Assuming it comes in
Yeah.
below that 200,000, we have budget. Assuming it comes in. Yeah, no.
Construction and this is going on?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I wonder what brings people, like, what?
He's a big parks guy.
That's
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
He shows up for all kinds of sporting events.
Yeah.
Other than
I didn't know what his agenda, because he had a little smirk on him, and I thought, well,
that,